Happy Wednesday and welcome to a new chapter of A Loser. Before we jump into chapter 7, yesterday I taught you guys four major fiction story elements that we'll be focusing on this week. There are more than four, but this week we're focusing on setting, characters, problem, and resolution, also known as solution. So just a couple quick reminders. Setting is when and where the story takes place, like the park or your bedroom. Characters are the people that are inside of the story. Characters can be minor, they can be major or main characters, and you can have characters pop in and out of chapters throughout a chapter book, like Loser. Anytime you get information about a character's traits or maybe what they look like, in addition to their names and who they are, we would call that characterization or the character fiction story element. Another thing we have going on are problems. A fourth grade level word we use for that is conflicts. You usually have a central conflict or problem in a short story or a chapter book, but you can have several problems throughout a text, even within just a single chapter. Last but not least, we're looking at the solution fiction story element. So the reason why it's so important to look at that story element is that is where you get the theme or a life lesson of a short story or a chapter book. We also call that the resolution. It's usually found at the end of the story. So before we get started, a lot of you guys did some really powerful and important work dealing with characterization and character traits last week, looking at Zinkoff. And so I did put Zinkoff on our chart under characters. He is our main character. And we had some really great character traits that kids defended in their homework last week with text evidence. I think this is from you, Yitzel. Enthusiastic was, I thought, a really good character trait that we're learning for Zinkoff. He's always excited, happy, falling out of his chair, giggling. So enthusiastic. Some of you also said excitable, which I think is another great synonym that really matches enthusiastic. Whoops. Some of you also said just like happy or cheerful. Unique and different was one that I helped you guys with, but a lot of you agreed that Zinkoff is a very strange, peculiar, unique, different child. So we had a ton of synonyms for this character trait last week. And I think you're going to notice that in each and every chapter, he does something that's very unique and different to back up that character trait. This one's from Adioba. He's the only one to mention this one. I was surprised, but the word sloppy, I think, works really well as a character trait for Zinkoff. Adioba had mentioned in, I think it was chapter 5 or 6, Zinkoff is kind of getting, not in trouble with his teacher, but his teacher, Miss Meeks, is noticing that his handwriting is atrocious. She cannot read it, and he has a lot of difficulty writing something even basic like his first name. So sloppy right now is a good one. These character traits may stay the same throughout the text. They might change. We know characters are very complicated, they're complex, and they grow and change. So as we jump into chapter 7, I'm going to stop and just track some of these story elements that we're coming across in just this chapter. This chapter is called Jabip. I bet you're curious about what that is. Here is the surprise. Every day is like the first day to Zinkoff. Things keep happening that rekindle the excitement of the first day. Learning to read, his first 2-syllable word. Making a shoebox scene about the pilgrims. Counting to 5 in Spanish. Learning about water and ants and tooth decay. His first fire drill. Making new friends. At the dinner table, Zinkoff tells his parents about his days. I'm going to stop for a second. I have a setting for this chapter. Setting is the time or place. And for this chapter, the setting right now is the dinner table after school. I'm going to slap that under setting. And then we just mentioned some other characters. Zinkoff's parents. And so for Zinkoff's parents, where am I going to put that? They're people in the story. That's right, I'm going to put it where it says characters. Let's keep reading. He tells his parents about his days, but he always waits for his father's question. So what's new, Chickamoo? Or what's new, Bugaloo? Or Kinkachoo? Or Poopy-coo? Many things tickle Zinkoff, but nothing more than the sound of a funny word. Words tickle him like fingerprints in the ribs. Every time his father comes up with a new one, Zinkoff has to put down his fork and laugh. Usually he leans to one side, as if the funny word has a force of a great wind. Sometimes he even falls off his chair. I think this matches these sentences right here, really kind of match a character trait that you guys are mentioning, that he's excitable and enthusiastic. He's just a fun kid. So those sentences about him laughing a lot and laughing so hard he falls off of his chair, we're learning more about Zinkoff the character. And so sentences like that, I could put under characters because it shows more about those traits and we're learning more about him as a kid. It's his teacher, Miss Meeks, who comes up with the best one. She stands at the green board one day trying to explain what 1 billion basketballs would look like. If you put the first one here, she says, pointing to the floor, and line them up out the door and down the hallway and across the playground and down the street, why, they would stretch from here to Jabip. The classroom is a sea of boggling eyes. Wow. Someone calls out, "Where's Jabip?" Miss Meeks explains that there is no actual place called Jabip. It's just her way of saying someplace really far away. At that point, Zinkoff, in the last seat in the last row, tilts alarmingly to the left and falls from his chair. The teacher rushes to him. His face is red. Tears stream down his cheeks. He's gasping for breath. "Donald, Donald," she calls, though he is only inches away. He looks up at her through watery eyes. He gasps, "Jabip!" He pounds on the floor. That's when Miss Meeks realizes her pupil isn't dying. He's merely laughing. So here he is again, a repeated action, laughing so hard he falls off of his chair. He does that with his parents. He also does that in the classroom with Miss Meeks. It's a good 5 minutes before Zinkoff calms down enough for the class to continue. Can you imagine a kid laughing like that for 5 whole minutes? Miss Meeks forbids the class and herself to utter the word Jabip for the rest of the day. Nevertheless, from time to time, there are sudden, giggly eruptions from the back row as the word pops back into Zinkoff's head. When he hears Clunker 4, that's his dad's car, coming that day, he runs alongside the car as it coasts to the curb. "Daddy, Daddy, did you ever hear of Jabip?" "Sure," says his father out the open window. "I've also heard of Jaboop." Zinkoff rolls on the sidewalk. Jabip, Jaboop. He keeps erupting through dinner. Eating becomes hazardous. That's like dangerous. His parents smile patiently for the first minute or so, then begin telling him enough is enough. But Zinkoff can't stop. When a bolt of mashed potatoes shoots from his nose, he is sent to his room. That night he giggles through his prayer and into sleep. This kid laughs a lot. In school for the rest of the week, Zinkoff continues to produce outbursts of laughter in the back row. Every outburst triggers laughter from other pupils. Sometimes, to get him started, a pupil waits until the teacher's head is turned, then whispers the forbidden word, Jabip. Sometimes Miss Meeks bites her tongue to keep from joining in. Sometimes she gets mad. It's during one of the mad times that she says, "Donald, come up here, please." When he stands before her, she takes something from her desk drawer. It's a round yellow button. It's the largest button the students have ever seen, as large as a giant pinwheel taffy. It has black letters on it. Can you tell me what it says? Zinkoff studies the button. Finally, he shakes his head. It says, I know I can behave. She pins the button onto his shirt. And I know you can. Zinkoff has to wear the button for an hour. During that time, he does not laugh once. Miss Meeks judges her maneuver a success and returns the button to the drawer. Soon Zinkoff is laughing again. He gets the button back. So it goes for several days. So wait, this poor kid is wearing this giant button, probably about this big, that says, I can behave, several or many days in a row. That means he's laughing in the back row of that classroom every single day. Second graders who wore the button the previous year and who have heard of Zinkoff's endless giggling ask him in the playground, did you get the button today? One day, Miss Meeks has to leave the classroom for a while. When she returns, she finds Zinkoff's hand waving in the air. Yes, Donald. Miss Meeks, he says, I laughed when you were gone. And she realizes at last that for Zinkoff, the button is not a punishment at all, but a badge of honor. From then on, she punishes him by keeping the button in the drawer. So that kind of shows to me another character trait maybe I could throw up there for Zinkoff, Donald Zinkoff later, is honest. His teacher left the room. She came back and he raised his hand and said, I laughed. He kind of wanted that button. Button or no button, Zinkoff loves school. One day he awakes before anyone else in the house. He gets himself dressed. He makes his own breakfast. He brushes his teeth and walks off to school. I must be early, he thinks, for he sees no crossing guards or other children along the way. He is sitting on the front step waiting for the door to open when he hears Clunker 4. It stops in front of the school, and out pop both his mother and father. Both come running. Donald, we've been looking all over. You weren't in your bed. I came to school all by myself, he declares proudly. His parents look at each other. His mother bites her lip. His father picks him up and says, You're very big to do that all by yourself. The only problem is there's no school today. It's Saturday. Pretty funny. When Miss Meeks passes Zinkoff on to second grade, she writes on the back of his final report card, Donald sometimes has a problem with self-control, and I wish he were neater, but he is so good-natured. That son of yours is one happy child, and he certainly does love school. So we have the end of our chapter, and Zinkoff is passing first grade and about to move on to second grade. I wonder if the next chapter will see him as a second grader or older. A couple things we have left to chart. We have another character who is mentioned in this chapter today, Miss Meeks, his funny teacher. I'm almost running out of room for characters here. Oh, how about this? Zinkoff gets in trouble for laughing in class. I put the button. So for several days in a row, he had to wear that giant yellow button that says, I can behave. Where should I put this? Getting in trouble for something. That should definitely go under problem or conflict, right? I wonder if he's going to get in trouble like that in second grade. He seems like a kind of kid who can't stop himself from laughing or yelling out. He's not doing it because he's bad. I don't think he means to do it, but it is causing a problem. Good thing Miss Meeks is really patient and nice. What if his next teacher is not? And then I have this. This is something that Miss Meeks said. On his report card, she wrote this. Donald sometimes has a problem with self-control, and I wish he were neater. The word problem is in there, right? Sometimes Donald has a problem with self-control. That means controlling your emotions or your words, and I wish he were neater. That kind of ties back to when Adioba wrote in his homework that Donald Zinkoff is very sloppy. We're going to put that under problem or conflict. We're going to keep track of that problem too. Is it going to be a problem in second grade, in third grade, in fourth grade, or is it something he's going to get better at? Now notice, I left solution and resolution blank today. We don't have these two problems being solved. Zinkoff got in trouble the whole school year, and even at home he got sent to his room for laughing all the time and having outbursts or explosions or eruptions, as the adults said. And then also he has a problem with self-control. That was written on his report card. That means he can't control his words or his laughter. That isn't solved yet. He's still doing it, right? And his sloppy handwriting, his handwriting could be neater, the teacher said. That hasn't been solved yet. So right now we don't have any solutions to the problems that we put up on our chart, so we're going to leave that blank. What you're going to do is your worksheet should only take you about 5 minutes, no more. I read to you a very short paragraph story. And then what you're going to do is drag and drop some sentences from that story onto a chart that looks just like this. I did one of the sections for you. So you just have 3 boxes or 3 sentences that you have to click on and drag into the chart. Is it setting, character, problem, or solution? And you will have 1 sentence in each box so that you'll have a full chart when you're done. When you're all finished with your homework, remember to get on Raz Kids for 30 minutes and about 10 to 15 minutes of vocabulary. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.